Welcome back, everyone, and we are doing MEG 02, right? We have talked about this course. In this course, we are going to do British drama, right? और मैंने आपको बताया है कि इस कोर्स के पार्ट में क्या-क्या हम पढ़ने वाले हैं, right? In the introductory lecture or the introductory video that we have had, right? So keeping all of that in mind, we are going to move forward, and this is going to be the first lecture, right? So right off the bat, before I begin this lecture, I'll just tell you a few things. First of all, this lecture is at the master's level, right? So here we are going to deal a little bit into the nuances. हम थोड़ी complex बातें करने की कोशिश करेंगे. लेकिन कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी का मतलब कहीं भी ये नहीं है कि हम एलिटिस्ट बनेंगे और कुछ ऐसी बात करेंगे जो हमको बिल्कुल ना समझ आए. इसका मतलब कहीं भी ये नहीं है. कॉम्प्लेक्स का मतलब ये है कि हम एक बेसिक आइडिया को लेके वो आइडिया जहां तक पहुंच सके उसको स्ट्रेच करने की कोशिश करेंगे इन द क्लास, राइट? सो द things that we're going to talk more about are going to come in the future slides. Let's start with this idea कि hell is just a frame of mind. Right now, something like this has been said by Christopher Marlowe in Dr. Faustus. Dr. Faustus हम पढ़ने वाले हैं अभी, मतलब पहले यूनिट में हम Dr. Faustus ही पढ़ने वाले हैं. So this is something that you can keep in mind. And with that being said, let's move ahead into the lecture and let's see that what we are doing here. Right. So let's get going. Right. So the first person that we are dealing with is Christopher Marlowe. Right. Now, when we are talking about Christopher Marlowe, you need to remember that क्रिस्टोफर मार्लो एक ऐसे समय पे एलिजाबेथन ड्रामा में आए जिस समय जो एलिजाबेथन थिएटर था that was not very refined. And it is due to this person on your screen that the refinement of Elizabethan theatre, Elizabethan tragedy happened, जिसका फायदा आगे चल के शेक्सपियर भी उठाते हैं in a way, right? So Christopher Marlowe is someone who is bringing that innovative style in British drama. Right. Now, as we know that we are talking about Elizabethan theatre, तो before getting in detail about Marlowe, अभी हम पहले Marlowe की थोड़ी बात करेंगे about his life, and then we will majorly go into looking at Elizabethan theatre in this lecture today, right? So we are doing short lectures ताकि एक टॉपिक पे हम बात करें और उस टॉपिक को काफी अच्छे से समझें. राइट. तो इन दिस टॉपिक दैट वी हैव टुडे हम एलिजाबेथन थिएटर की बात करेंगे और एक तरीके से वो किस तरीके से शुरू हुआ, मेडिवल थिएटर से कैसे एलिजाबेथन रेनेसांस थिएटर पे हम पहुंचे, इसकी हम बात करेंगे, राइट? एंड द टू डिफरेंट काइंड्स मेजरली, दैट इज एलिजाबेथन कॉमेडीज एंड एलिजाबेथन ट्रेजेडीज, इन दोनों की भी बात हम इस लेक्चर में करेंगे. So, as I said, Christopher Marlowe is the originator of the mature English tragedy, right? तो mature English tragedy से क्या मतलब है? What is the meaning of mature English tragedy? If we look at Dr. Faustus, जब हम Dr. Faustus को देखते हैं, जो लिखी गई थी 1586 के आसपास, 1586-87 में लिखी गई थी डॉक्टर फॉस्टस. एंड टैम्बरलेन द ग्रेट, अनदर ऑफ मार्लोज इनिशियल वर्क्स, 1586 1587 के आसपास ये दोनों प्लेज लिखे गए, राइट? बट यू सी दैट जो ब्लैंक वर्स का यूज मार्लो लेके आते हैं, इट इज वेरी something that you will not see before this. Before this, जो refinement English poetry में हुआ था, that mainly happened due to the likes of John Lilly, right? जो अपने euphuistic style के through उन्होंने एक refinement लेके आए थे वो in Elizabethan drama. But nothing of the sort that Christopher Marlowe was going to bring. Right? Let's look ahead. Yes. So अगर हम सिर्फ ट्रेजेडी की बात करें, एलिजाबेथन ट्रेजेडी की अगर हम सिर्फ बात करें, तो सबसे पहले हम थॉमस किड को देखेंगे. राइट. थॉमस किड वाज द इनिशिएटर द स्पेनिश ट्रेजेडी. राइट. जो स्पेनिश आर्माडा पे अटैक हुए थे, जो इंग्लैंड जीती थी, उसके बारे में थॉमस किड ने लिखा था. राइट. एंड आफ्टर दैट Christopher Marlowe comes and refines the English stage with his tragedy, right? And then we see the likes of Shakespeare and John Webster who are following Christopher Marlowe, right? So this is the objective of today's lecture. Let's look at the different things that we are covering in this. Right? What are the things that we are covering? In this, we are looking at Christopher Marlowe, right? जो हमने शुरुआत की, we are looking a little bit about Christopher Marlowe. फिर हम एलिजाबेथन ड्रामा की तरफ देखेंगे, जहाँ पे हम रिलीजियस बिगिनिंग्स जो है ड्रामा की, उसको ट्रेस करेंगे. फिर हम मिरेकल एंड मिस्ट्री प्लेस जो हैं, जिनकी बात आई एम श्योर, क्योंकि आप मास्टर्स के स्टूडेंट्स हो, आपको पता होगा कि मिरेकल एंड मिस्ट्री प्लेस क्या होते हैं, राइट? बट वी आर गोइंग टू गो ओवर दैट, एंड वी आर ऑल्सो गोइंग टू गो ओवर मोरालिटी प्लेस. Then we are going to look at the rise of the Elizabethan comedy and tragedy. फिर हम ग्रोथ ऑफ द एलिजाबेथन थिएटर को देखेंगे, एलिजाबेथन कॉमेडी, ट्रेजेडी, डिफरेंशिएशन कैसे हो रहा है. एलिजाबेथन कॉमेडी में दो तरीके के, किस तरीके के कॉमेडीज होते थे, दैट वी आर गोइंग टू सी. वी आर गोइंग टू लुक एट द सेनेकन इन्फ्लुएंस दैट वाज देयर ऑन ट्रेजेडी, राइट? सो दीज आर द एरियाज दैट वी आर गोइंग टू look into. We are going to look into the Greek origins of tragedy. एरिस्टोटल ने कैसे डिफाइन किया था ट्रेजेडी को, उसके बारे में भी हम थोड़ा देखेंगे. एलिजाबेथन फॉर्मुलेशंस ऑफ ट्रेजेडी की, एलिजाबेथन ट्रेजेडी जो है वो एरिस्टोटेलियन ट्रेजेडी से कहाँ मिलती थी और कहाँ उनमें कुछ डिफरेंसेस थे, ये भी हम देखेंगे. एंड फाइनली द मॉडर्निटी ऑफ एलिजाबेथन ट्रेजेडी, कि आज के दिन जो एलिजाबेथन ट्रेजेडी है वो हम आज क्यों पढ़ रहे हैं. व्हाट इज द इम्पोर्टेंस, व्हाट इज द significance of Elizabethan tragedy in today's world, right? That we are going to look into in the modernity of Elizabethan tragedy, right? So Christopher Marlowe, right? Christopher Marlowe की बात हम सबसे पहले कर रहे हैं, and we are looking at his lifespan जो है 1564 से लेके 93 तक, right? So the first thing that you can notice here is that he had a rather short lifespan, right? His lifespan was rather short. If you look into the number of works in such a short lifespan, you will see that the genius that Christopher Marlowe was, right? We know he, if you compare him to the likes of William Shakespeare, so we see that Christopher Marlowe is somewhat of the innovator who is beginning a tradition, right? And Shakespeare is probably taking it forward from there. But Marlowe is absolutely the instigator of such a new idea that is coming into literature of the time. So he was born in 1564, right? 2 months, just 2 months before William Shakespeare. In 1580 to 1586, he studied at Corpus Christi College in Cambridge. So you see that he was born just 2 months before Shakespeare, right? And if you see कि इनकी writings कब आ रही हैं, तो by 1593, when Shakespeare is just starting off, Marlowe is completing his career almost as a playwright, right? So you can see the brilliance of Marlowe from that. Marlowe was also someone who was born in a very, he was not a noble born person, right? So his family is also the mark of social mobility in England at the time, right? He studied at Corpus Christi College in Cambridge. He was in London writing plays after that. He started work as a diplomat, right, and entered the court circle of free thinkers with Sir Walter Raleigh, for whom he worked as a secret agent. So this is also a hypothesis कि 1592 से जो 1590 से 92 ऑलमोस्ट या फिर एक समय पहले भी it was believed कि Christopher Marlowe was working as a secret agent. It was also because जो उस समय मार्लो थे उन्होंने अपने कॉलेज में because he didn't go to college much, but his attendance was waived off by a letter from Queen Elizabeth. Right, so there are conjectures around this area where people tend to believe that Marlowe was probably working as a secret agent with the court. Marlowe also met other dramatists and actors of the time, including William Shakespeare in 1592. Okay? So he was a feisty character, often involved in fights and duels. He was imprisoned at least twice, accused of murder, and later of atheism. He was accused of atheism. Atheism was not permitted at the time, right? And he was stabbed and killed while gambling at an inn in the suburb of London. Now, looking at Christopher Marlowe uh, and how he brought the blank verse to poetry, right? Christopher Marlowe was the first writer to prove how effective and expressive blank verse could be when used for drama. So before this, people were writing in rhyme a lot, right? But he brought the blank verse to drama and he showed how effective this blank verse could be. Before, Marlowe plays strictly use rhymed verse instead. Finding it too stiff and formal, he completely changed the way writers wrote plays and used blank verse. So there was a complete क्योंकि जब there is a necessity of rhyming, so your ideas tend to be constricted because of that, right? Because of that, your ideas tend to uh, you tend to think of words that would rhyme and that tends to constrict your ideas. Now, because he brought the free words, as the name suggests, it brought about a certain freedom to the artistic expression in plays, right? And it changed play writing for theater forever. Now, it is important to discuss before discussing Christopher Marlowe's writing, it is important to discuss कि जो Elizabethan era था, how was that? Right, because Elizabethan era is considered to be the zenith of Renaissance ideas, right, in England, and it was also considered to be the height of English drama, right, English Renaissance drama. So let's see what was there in this Elizabethan era. The Elizabethan drama emerged in the middle of the 16th century in England in response to the growing needs of popular entertainment, national and cultural aspirations. Although इस पिक्चर में अगर आप देखें यहाँ पे एक माइक की फोटो बनी हुई है, ब्लूटूथ की फोटो बनी हुई है, मेल की फोटो बनी हुई है, वाईफाई की फोटो बनी हुई है, राइट? सो इट सजेस्ट्स कि कैसे कंटेम्प्रेरी आइडियाज हैं, कैसे पॉपुलर नीड्स हैं ये फोन में, राइट? A similar ethos that brought Elizabethan drama, right? Along with many other factors. तो सबसे पहले अगर एलिजाबेथन ड्रामा को देखें तो ये हमको समझना होगा कि एलिजाबेथन ड्रामा मतलब हम एलिजाबेथन एज की बात कर रहे हैं, राइट? सो व्हेन क्वीन एलिजाबेथ sat on the throne of England and then till the time she died, that is in 1603. So, in the middle of the 16th century, from the middle of the 16th century to the beginning of the 17th century. So, this is the time period of Elizabethan drama, right, and Elizabethan England. And just after this, we see the coming of Jacobean drama, which is somewhat different from Elizabethan drama in its ideas and in its aesthetics as well. Right. So that is the first thing about Elizabethan age that you need to know. That is the time period. Now, what is happening in this time period also, right? It is talking about popular entertainment, national and cultural aspirations. So, what is happening in this time period? Let's find out in the next slides. Now, after the decline of the classical drama in Europe, the Middle Ages witnessed the use of literature in the church for religious instruction. तो इस बारे में हमने बात की है ग्रेजुएशन लेवल के कोर्सेज में भी कि कैसे हमने ग्रीक ट्रेजेडीज ग्रीक ड्रामा देखा है जो द फेस्टिवल ऑफ डायनाइसिस इन ग्रीस इन द 4th and 5th century BC में कैसे ये फेस्टिवल परफॉर्म होता था जहां पे थिएटर पीपल लाइक एस्किलस सोफोकलिस यूरिपिडस राइट इन लोग प्लेज लिख रहे थे बट दैट आइडिया समवेयर वेंट अवे इन द मिडिल एजेस क्योंकि मिडिल एजेस में एज वी नो it was the age of the Catholic Church. It was the age of Orthodox religion, right? So in the Middle Ages, we see that what is given importance is the religious idea, right? And not so much through the play, because sometimes even the play or the theater is considered to be sacrilegious, right? मतलब प्ले या फिर थिएटर को भी किसी पॉइंट पे अगेंस्ट गॉड माना जा सकता था एंड ऑल्सो ड्यूरिंग द मिडिल एजेस द आइडिया ऑफ कि मैन जो है इज अ फॉलन क्रिएचर राइट एडम और ईव की कहानी आपको सबको पता है कि कैसे एडम और ईव हेवन से आके अर्थ पे गिरे थे बिकॉज ऑफ देयर सिन द इटर्नल सिन ऑफ मैन और ये जो मिडिल एजेस थे इट वाज a need or a want to get out of this middle age right जहां पे man is considered to have sinned and the only wish of this man is to move out of this sin to be salvaged from this sin right सो जो प्लेज है उनका मेन कंटेंट या मेन मटेरियल रिवॉल्व अराउंड दीज आइडियाज सो द क्लासिकल ड्रामा जो था यूरोप का दैट फ्लरिश्ड इन ग्रीस इन द 5th century BC it went through major change and became more religious in the middle ages right now, these drama, which began with the clergy, expanded and included laymen. These were called the miracle and mystery plays. तो अब यहां से हम पहुंचेंगे कि रिलीजन जो है क्योंकि हमने ये समझ लिया कि मिडिल एजेस में जो है वो जो प्लेस थे वो काफी रिलीजियस लाइंस पे होते थे राइट द कंटेंट वाज रिलीजियस अब रिलीजियस में डिस्टिंक्शंस कैसे हो रही हैं दो तरह की डिस्टिंक्शंस थी मिरेकल प्लेस और मिस्ट्री प्लेस अब आप इसको याद कैसे रखेंगे मिरेकल प्लेस जो थे वो एक कोई मिरेकल दिखाते थे राइट सो मिरेकल कौन करते थे सेंट्स यूज्ड टू डू दीज मिरेकल्स राइट एंड मिस्ट्री प्लेस वर अबाउट द वर्ड ऑफ गॉड सो मिरेकल प्लेस एंड मिस्ट्री प्लेस अब इसमें क्या हुआ कि धीरे धीरे इन प्लेस को परफॉर्म करते हुए लेमन स्टार्टेड गेटिंग इन्वॉल्व इन दिस लेमन मतलब जो जिनको ज्यादा कुछ आइडिया नहीं होता था मतलब अबाउट द कंटेंट ऑफ रिलीजन और एनीथिंग दीज पीपल स्टार्टेड गेटिंग इन्वॉल्व और स्कूल स्टूडेंट्स आल्सो वर बीइंग इन्वॉल्व राइट slowly what we see is as the miracle and mystery plays go on with time we see that ये डिस्टिलेशन चालू हो जाती है यहाँ से लेमन अंदर आने लग जाते हैं धीरे धीरे ये पता चलता है कि ये जो मिरेकल एंड मिस्ट्री प्लेज हैं ये काफी मतलब एक पॉपुलर एक एंटरटेनमेंट का भी सोर्स कहीं ना कहीं बन जाते हैं रिलीजियस सेरेमनीज में एक एंटरटेनमेंट का सोर्स नाउ व्हेन दिस इज एसोसिएटेड मच विद एंटरटेनमेंट द क्लर्जी मूव्स अ स्टेप बैक राइट क्योंकि द क्लर्जी इज सपोज्ड टू be completely move away from any kind of entertainment right so the clergy starts moving away from these kind of plays धीरे धीरे right और इसमें क्या होता है कि as we move closer to the 13th and the 15th century, 14th and the 15th century, तो हम देखते हैं कि कैसे धीरे धीरे मोर ट्रूप्स, राइट, जैसे यॉर्क के थिएटर या फिर ऑफ डिफरेंट प्लेसेस इन इंग्लैंड, these थिएटर ग्रुप्स स्टार्ट फॉर्मिंग, एंड ये जो परफॉर्मेंस होती है ये चर्च में सिर्फ नहीं बट एक सोशल परफॉर्मेंस होने लगती है, राइट। सो फर्दर डिस्टिलेशन इज हैपनिंग, वर्नाक्यूलर इंट्रोड्यूस हो रहा है, लैटिन या फिर हिब्रू में जो हो रहा था, लैटिन में मोस्टली जो हो रहा था, या फिर रोमन में जो हो रहा था, नाउ दैट इज हैपनिंग slowly in English, right? And that is how the vernacular English is coming into the theater space, or the play, or the drama. The plays having reference to the Bible were called mystery plays, or lives of saints के साथ जो डील करते थे वो है miracle plays. मैं ये बता चुका हूँ, right? Moving forward, now the later advances of English religious drama was in the form of morality plays. तो मिरेकल और मिस्ट्री प्लेस के बाद आए मोरालिटी प्लेस। अब एक तरीके से अगर आप इसको देखो तो मोरालिटी प्लेस का आना इंपॉर्टेंट क्यों हो गया? क्योंकि जो मॉरल टीचिंग्स थी वो काफी इंपॉर्टेंट हो गई, राइट। अगर आप देखो कि मोरालिटी प्लेस जो आते हैं दे आर कमिंग मोस्टली इन द 14th एंड द 15th सेंचुरी, मिस्ट्री और मिरेकल प्लेस जबकि पहले से चले आ रहे थे। तो मोरालिटी बताना, मोरालिटी प्लेज में क्या होता है, एलेगोरिकल स्टोरीज होती है, मतलब एक कहानी सेकेंड ऑर्डर ऑफ मीनिंग होता है उसका, राइट। तो अगर मैं आपको कहानी में एक if I show you one person hitting another person, so this person stands for someone, and the other person जिसको मारा जा रहा है, that person also stands for someone else, right? तो ये जो एलेगोरिकल कहानियां हैं ये बताई जाना चालू हो गई, टू टीच अ मॉरल मैसेज अंडरपिन्ड बाय क्रिश्चियन टीचिंग्स। तो बाइबल की जो कहानियां हैं, बाइबल की जो टीचिंग्स हैं, मॉरल कहानियां हैं, ये बताई जाने लगी, क्योंकि धीरे धीरे देयर वाज अ ट्रेंड मूविंग टुवर्ड्स ह्यूमनिज्म, राइट। और जैसे जैसे आप ह्यूमनिज्म की तरफ मूव करते हो, यू आर रिप्लेसिंग गॉड एंड पुटिंग human in that position. So medieval age में, where the Bible or the Roman Catholic Church or Christianity took the center stage, stood in the center of the society, that was being replaced by the human in the Renaissance ethos, right? Scientific developments and understanding of the world, right? Exploration, people crossing the seas and going out and finding different lands. So all of this brought about एक ह्यूमन पोटेंशियल का आइडिया जो was not restricted to anything. Humans could do anything. That was the human potential. So with that, God became small and humans became bigger in a way. So it became important for Christianity to impose their morality on the people, which somehow shows us the importance of morality plays. Some morality plays like The Castle of Perseverance. आप देखिए इनको अर्ली 15th सेंचुरी में लिखी जा रही हैं ये। द प्राइड ऑफ लाइफ, एवरी मैन, इम्पेशेंट पॉवर्टी, मैरी मैगडालन, right? So all of these are being written in the early 15th and 16th century. The long years of morality tradition, through the vicissitude of church doctrine and the pressures of the New Age, led to the evolution of the Elizabethan dramatic genres of comedy and tragedy. तो ये जो morality tradition था, somehow इसके थ्रू ये जो कॉमेडी और ट्रेजेडी ये बन, मतलब कहीं ना कहीं मोरालिटी ट्रेडिशन में क्या होता था कि गुड विल विन ओवर इविल। Now, this good and evil was decided by Christian ideology, है ना? Christian religion, by the word of the Bible. लेकिन this idea that good should win over evil persisted, right? It stayed there. सो ऑल्दो एक मूवमेंट हो गई, मोरालिटी प्लेस जो है वो धीरे धीरे काफी ना ही एलेगोरिकल रहे, ना वो रेनेसांस ईथोस को अपने अंदर ले सके। बाय 1547 जो प्लेस आ रहे थे, दे डिड नॉट हैव द रेनेसांस ईथोस इन देम, राइट? सो दे कुड नॉट स्टैंड द टेस्ट ऑफ टाइम इन दैट मैनर। लेकिन जो इनके आइडियाज थे ऑफ गुड वर्सेस इविल, दैट पास्ड ऑन इन द कॉमेडी एंड ट्रेजेडी। अगर आप कॉमेडी में देखो और ट्रेजेडी में देखो, तो हाउ गुड इज विनिंग ओवर इविल इज ऑलवेज हैपनिंग। कॉमेडी में तो डेफिनेटली हो रहा है, ट्रेजेडी में वी आर शोइंग देयर इज अ मार्शिया, राइट? एक ट्रेजिक फ्लॉ रह रहा है जिसकी वजह से एक सजा मिल रही है टू द ट्रेजिक हीरो। सो दिस आइडिया ऑफ जस्टिस still prevailed. The concern with human condition per se is the chief characteristic of Elizabethan drama. This justice or this concern with Elizabethan, with human nature, right? Human condition. निकोलस उडाल की राल्फ रॉयस्टर डॉयस्टर पहली कॉमेडी बनी, राइट? एंड थॉमस सैगविल और थॉमस नॉर्टन की गॉर्बोडक 1561 में बिकेम द फर्स्ट ट्रेजेडी। तो आप इनके पोस्टर्स को भी देखिए, काफी इंटरेस्टिंग और काफी आप इससे याद रख सकते हैं अबाउट द प्लेस। The early English tragedy had its advent in the inns of the court. Gorboduc was written and produced by two lawyers at the inner temple. Right? So, court में लिखी जा रही थी. Right? This is an information. Now, John Lilly. John Lilly is an important person taking into consideration the Elizabethan comedies. तो जॉन लिली ने क्या किया, क्वीन एलिजाबेथ के लिए पर्सनल प्रेजेंटेशंस हुई थी उनके प्लेस की, राइट? एंड इट एस्टैब्लिश्ड द जॉनरा ऑफ एलिजाबेथन कॉमेडी। जॉन लिली ने एक राइटिंग का तरीका निकाला दैट वाज कॉल्ड यूफ्यूइज्म। EUPHUISM, यूफ्यूइज्म। तो यूफ्यूइज्म के तहत वो क्या करते थे, वो पैरेलल सेंटेंसेस लेते थे जिसमें फैंटास्टिकल फैंटेसी अल्यूजन्स होते थे, जहाँ पे रेफरेंसेस होते थे काफी अबाउट द फैंटास्टिकल एलिमेंट्स ऑफ द टाइम, राइट? और जो लैंग्वेज होती थी वो काफी रिफाइंड होती थी, काफी आर्टसी होती थी, काफी एलिटिस्ट होती थी इन अ वे, राइट? तो दिस वाज हैपनिंग, दिस वाज बीइंग डन बाय जॉन लिली। तो एक तरीके से रिफाइनमेंट जो थोड़ी थोड़ी इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज में आ रही है, दैट कम्स थ्रू जॉन लिली एंड दैट कैन बी अंडरस्टूड एज हिज contribution to the Elizabethan comedy. Elizabethan theatre not only integrated within itself various elements of classical drama, it also took the Greek formulations about comedy and tragedy. तो जो Greek ideas थे about comedy and tragedy, those were also very well implemented by the Elizabethan theatre, right? They took, for example, the five-act play, right? And they also took many of the ideas from Aristotle, from Sophocles, from Seneca, right? So the Greek ideas sustained in the Elizabethan comedy and tragedy. एलिजाबेथन कॉमेडी, अब एलिजाबेथन कॉमेडी को दो हिस्सों में डिवाइड कर दिया गया, रोमांटिक कॉमेडी एंड क्रिटिकल कॉमेडी। तो रोमांटिक कॉमेडी जो है, शुरुआती दौर में हमको रोमांटिक कॉमेडी ज्यादा दिखती है। यू कैन टेक द व्हाट इज द थीम ऑफ लव व्हिच इज लूडिक्रस रादर देन रिडिकुलस इन नेचर, राइट? लूडिक्रस मतलब क्या? हास्यकर, जिससे आपको हंसी आएगी, लेकिन रिडिकुलस नहीं है। मेलोड्रामेटिक, जहां पे इमोशंस जो हैं वो काफी भर भर के दिखाए गए होते हैं, दोनों तरह के, ऑफ लव, ऑफ हेट, ऑफ जॉय, ऑफ सैडनेस, राइट? सॉन्ग एंड इमेजिनेटिव रियलिज्म। सो दिस, इस तरीके का जो रोमांटिक कॉमेडी थी, ये एक एस्केपिस्ट कॉमेडी थी समवेयर, जहां पे आप एक आइडियलिस्टिक पास्टरल में सेटिंग होती थी, और जो कैरेक्टर्स होते थे वो प्यार में पड़ के, एंड दे यूज्ड टू, दिस यूज्ड टू बी द थीम ऑफ द रोमांटिक कॉमेडी, राइट? सो इट वाज एन एस्केप फ्रॉम द रेगुलर, द the grim realities of Elizabethan life. So it was a movement away from that. अब इधर पढ़ाए के जा रहे थे, मतलब what were the plays? Ralph Royster Doyster, which was the first play, it was a romantic comedy. Mother Bombay, As You Like It by Shakespeare. So these were the examples of romantic comedy. जो जॉन लिली जो लिख रहे थे वो भी रोमांटिक कॉमेडी के अंदर आता है. क्रिटिकल कॉमेडी क्या होता है? क्रिटिकल कॉमेडी वाज मेनली डन बाय द लाइक ऑफ बेन जॉनसन, राइट? तो कॉमेडी ऑफ ह्यूमर्स है इधर. It was understood in this time that the human body is a balance of four different humors, right? Blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. So these were the four different humors. और ऐसा माना जाता था कि ह्यूमन बॉडी में इन चार ह्यूमर्स का प्रेजेंस है. और अगर कोई भी ह्यूमर बैलेंस्ड तरीके से प्रेजेंट ना हो तो it results in the changing of the characteristic of the person. So this was a comedy done through humor, जहां पे एक इंसान में एक तरीके का ह्यूमर होता था. Funny, it discusses serious issues, right? It is critical. It is critical of something. It is parodying something. Talks about the failure of morality in people. ये जेकोबियन प्लेज में चला जाता है थोड़ा, मतलब the age, it is an anticipation of the Jacobean theater that is going to come. Here we see plays like Every Man in His Humor, Volpone, and Alchemist by Ben Jonson, right? Now, the earliest inspiration for the English tragedy were the Latin plays of Seneca. Right, so Seneca became the earliest inspiration for the English tragedy. How you'll consider? So, what was Seneca? What were the Senecan tragedies like? So, when you see, let's say, if you've read about Hamlet, so Hamlet में जैसे you see that there is a heroic lead, right, of Hamlet. There is something that is hidden from him, and there is a retributive nature, and all of this retribution comes from Seneca. This idea of a retribution in English tragedy, it comes from Seneca. Right, let's move forward. So it was the retributive revenge motive, belief in fortune or chance, right? Stage declamation and soliloquy of the Senecan plays. Soliloquy क्या होता है? Soliloquy होता है जब जो स्पीकर है वो अपने आप में बात कर रहा हो, असाइड बात कर रहा हो, एंड एक कोई मोनोलॉग दे रहा हो, राइट? ही इज थिंकिंग बट ही इज टेलिंग इट टू द ऑडियंस. This happened in Senecan plays, and this happened in the plays of Thomas Kyd, Christopher Marlowe, and Shakespeare, which became extremely popular with the Elizabethan audiences. Right? Moving on, but we can't give the whole credit to Seneca, obviously, right? We talked about how the Greeks were also an important part. So let's see that. So the British drama owe a great deal to the Greek tragedy or drama in general. अब जैसा मैंने बात किया Dionysus, festival of Dionysus, and the Greek celebration of harvest is the place जहाँ पे Greek tragedies perform होती थी, जहाँ पे तीन tragedies और एक इंटरलूड और एक कॉमेडी दैट इज वो परफॉर्म होता था, right? And the beginnings of this was done by the likes of Aeschylus, फिर Sophocles or Euripides. Yes, so lyrics sung in honor of Dionysus, Greek god of vegetation and wine in the course of the fertility feasts, एक तरीके से हार्वेस्ट फेस्टिवल, राइट? अब Greek tragedy क्या थी? It was a form of theater popular in ancient Greece. These plays presented tragic tales of heroes who strove for greatness but were brought low by a combination of fate and their own human flaws. Hamartia. The three most influential Greek tragedians were Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides. Aeschylus, you have to remember, was the first Greek tragedy writer, right? Sophocles on the other hand, and his Oedipus Rex was considered by Aristotle the best example of Greek tragedy or how tragedy should be. तो एस्किलस ने क्या क्या लिखा है? द सप्लायंस, द पर्शियंस, Prometheus bound is an important Orestia, right? Orestia is another important play. सोफोक्लस के जो तीन जो ट्रिलॉजी है, एडिपस ट्रिलॉजी, दैट इज एडिपस द किंग, एडिपस एट कॉलोनस एंड एंटिगनी. So these are important tragedies written by Sophocles. Euripides has written something like Medea, which is again a very important tragedy. Orestes is also written by Euripides. Right? So these are important plays written by the three Greek stalwarts, the classical playwrights, so to say. Major contribution to drama were also done by Aristotle. तो एरिस्टोटल ने जो पोएटिक्स लिखी थी, एरिस्टोटल्स पोएटिक्स, उसमें ड्रामा की बात की थी. Right? He talked about drama and he differentiated comedy and tragedy, and he talked in detail about tragedy. Now, how did he define tragedy? He said tragedy is an imitation of an action that is serious, complete, and of a certain magnitude in language embellished with each kind of artistic ornament in the form of action, not of narrative, with incidents arousing pity and fear wherewith to accomplish its catharsis of such emotions. तो इसमें काफी सारी बातें कह दी गई, राइट? अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स वर सेड इन दिस. एक सीरियसनेस होनी चाहिए ट्रेजेडी में, एक सर्टेन मैग्नीट्यूड होना चाहिए लैंग्वेज में, आर्टिस्टिक ऑर्नामेंट होना चाहिए, राइट? इट शुड नॉट बी द रेगुलर लैंग्वेज, देयर शुड बी एन आर्टिस्टिक ऑर्नामेंट इन द लैंग्वेज, in the form of action, not of narrative. So you need to show, not tell. That is what Aristotle is trying to say. कि जो एक्शन जो हो रहा है वो आप एक थर्ड पर्सन के थ्रू बता नहीं सकते सारी कहानी, राइट? यू हैव टू शो इट डायलॉग के थ्रू, थ्रू एक्शन बिटवीन पीपल, एंड इट अराउजेस पिटी एंड फियर. आप एक हो जाते हो विद द कैरेक्टर्स, अराउजिंग पिटी एंड फियर, एंड फाइनली गेटिंग catharsis, right? That is the explosion or the letting out of such emotions. The Elizabethan tragedy was not only influenced by Greek tragedies but also Roman models of tragedy, right? Like those of Ovid, Plutarch, Seneca. तो सेनेका, प्लूटार्क, ओविड, जैसा हमने बात की है कि रोमन सेनेका से बहुत ज्यादा इंस्पायर्ड थे, राइट? तो इसकी भी हमने बात की है कि सेनेकन ट्रेजेडी से कैसे इंस्पायर्ड. Even though they follow Senecan revenge motives, the retributive justice that is seen in those plays are not seen, but our very retributive justice is taken as the quintennial question about the social moral system. तो इधर क्या कहा जा रहा है कि जो रिवेंज ट्रेजेडी that happened in Seneca and the revenge tragedy that happened in the Elizabethan period was different. In that, the main part, the main question that the Elizabethan tragedy, Senecan or the revenge tragedies asked was about the social moral system. Right? What is the social moral system like? That is the main question that the Elizabethan tragedies they were asking in contrast with the Senecan tragedies. The basic question Elizabethan tragedy raises is a relational one between man and nature. So this is very important. Now you have to understand this in terms of humanism. राइट? तो जब आप ह्यूमनिज्म को समझ रहे हो तो यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड कि जैसे रिलीजियस सेंटिमेंट्स को ओवरकम करके ह्यूमनिज्म बिकेम सेंटर ऑफ द वर्ल्ड इन दिस टाइम. So this humanism also had brought about rather the Reformation, Renaissance. All of these were movements that happened that showed the human influence, right? Renaissance showed the infinite human possibility. On the other hand, Reformation showed that the Roman Catholic Church is not the only option, right? There became rather a Protestant church, an Anglican church that happened, and there was development in trade, there was development in culture. So, with all of this, humans became with infinite potential, right? Now, this also, in a way, put humans ahead of nature. And how did humans perceive nature? How did humans perceive nature in the sense this is the earth, right? Its surroundings. इसके पहले बाइबल की जो मोरालिटी थी वो गाइडेंस काफी होती थी, बट अब ह्यूमंस उस गाइडेंस में बिलीव नहीं कर सकते. दे हैव टू क्रिएट समथिंग. This nature, this world, how do you see how the position of the human has changed? Now, how does the human see the world around him from that stature, from that pedestal? Right? This is the fundamental question that Elizabethan tragedy is trying to raise, be it through the uh, likes of Dr. Faustus, who does not know how the human potential can also destroy him, right? How does he see nature? Or someone like, let's say, a King Lear, who does not know that he does not stand in the place of God, right? He thinks, being the king, he thinks himself close to God, and somewhere Cordelia breaks that mirage. Right. So how does this question of the human condition, this question of the relationship between man and nature is continuously asked in the Elizabethan tragedy. Now, the answer to how this was portrayed in literature is given by Tom Linson while talking about Shakespeare's dramatic world. He says, the point rather is that in the fabric of Shakespeare's verse, the world of nature is given us as having an existence, right? So the world, the other world outside of the man, has an existence. Now, paradoxically, it is at once independent of and intimately related to man's status and worth. जो other world है, the other part of existence apart from human beings, is also related to what is man's worth. So any full realization of nature, Shakespeare is saying, must ultimately be in terms of man's consciousness, right? So हम देख ही इसको मैन के कॉन्शियसनेस के थ्रू रहे हैं. But the Shakespearean tragic paradox includes also a demonstration that nature, so far from being a mere background or illustration of a morality or goodness, truly grounded in man alone. Right, so nature, so far from being a mere ground background, it is not a mere background, it is coming to the fore. Indispensable source of nourishment, this nature is. The given body of experience and substance sustaining and supporting human life. This is about nature, what Tom Levinson is saying. The Elizabethan, influenced by the Greek tragic form, not only followed their aesthetic value but also made the dramatic art of tragedy a key to understanding the rich complexity of the Elizabethan mind and life. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि ग्रीक ट्रेजेडी को या फिर सेनेकन ट्रेजेडी को विदाउट एनी अंडरस्टैंडिंग कॉपी कर लिया गया इन द एलिजाबेथन टाइम्स. तो जैसे जो rules of time, space, these were not followed by the Elizabethan, right? The specificity of place was not followed by Elizabethan because they believed in the enormous human potential to exceed everything, right? So this idea is always there. The Elizabethans have immensely enriched the Greek tragic form, both in their adherence to dramatic form and in the liberties they have taken from the rigorous discipline of the Greek dramatic art. तो कुछ कुछ चीजें जो एलिजाबेथन्स ने ग्रीक ट्रेजेडी से ली हैं वो क्या क्या है. वन इज द एरिस्टोटेलियन हीरो, राइट? अगर आप हैमलेट को देखें तो देयर इज द एरिस्टोटेलियन हीरो. हमार्शिया मतलब एक ट्रैजिक फ्लॉ होगा इन द हीरो, the person who is going to fall. Now, the Aristotelian hero also has to be of noble background, right? So, if you see again Hamlet, you see that he is from noble background. Chorus will be there. So, introduction जो है वो chorus के through होता था. Post that, chorus was not much used in the Elizabethan time. Peripetia. Now, this is very important. What is peripetia? Peripetia is the sudden reversal of events. Finally, end में जाके there is a certain reversal of events जो actually instigate होता है through anagnosis. What is anagnosis? Anagnosis is the build up and the part where the hero finds out about himself, right? Finds out something about himself or finds out something that he did not know. Now, because he did not know this and the audience knew, this brings about the dramatic irony also. और जब हीरो को ये पता चलता है, then the turn of events happens and that causes the peripetia. Right? That is the turn of events. Now, these are some Aristotelian methods that were followed by the Elizabethan playwrights. Elizabethan drama intermixed tragic and comic experiences as practices so abhorrent to the Greeks. Now, वो हर जगह सेम नहीं थे, right? So जैसे ट्रेजेडी और कॉमेडी को ग्रीक्स कभी भी एक साथ नहीं करते, but the English tragedy comedy became a major hit in the Elizabethan times and in the post-Elizabethan times also. For the Elizabethans, more specifically for Marlowe and Shakespeare, tragedy is not a restrictive view of human excellence or weaknesses. Right? तो Greeks इसको देखते थे ऐसे कि like a restrictive view of human excellence and weakness. But the Elizabethans didn't see it like that. It was seen as an affirmative view of human aspirations, whose pursuit brings a glory to the definition of man. Right? So it was a pursuit of human aspirations. उसको करते हुए the human position is strengthened. It brings a glory to the definition of man. What the Elizabethans have done in formulating a tragic method and vision is the division of a modern scientific temper and attitude to life that began with the Renaissance and extends itself into contemporary times. तो अब हम देख रहे हैं कि contemporary times में importance क्या है. तो अगर contemporary times में आप एक डॉक्टर मार्लो को ले आए, तो you can see डॉक्टर फॉस्टस को ले आए, so you can see how today the quest for power has blinded people, right? अगर आप एक किंग लियर को ले आए, तो you can see how people are just blinded by wealth, by power, right? So these are problems of the modern times that were being written about in the Renaissance age, right? So this scientific temper of the Renaissance, we have not quite gotten past that yet. It is still a problem of today. And that is why it is very important to read the Elizabethan tragedies, the Elizabethan comedies, to understand, to not just understand, actually, to even reflect on today's society through the lens of the past. These are the things we talked about. We talked about the Elizabethan drama, its religious beginnings, miracle or mystery plays की हमने बात की, right? Morality plays की बात की. We talked about the rise of the Elizabethan comedy and tragedy. और सेनेकन इन्फ्लुएंस की बात की हमने, बात की कि कैसे ग्रीक ट्रेजेडीज के कौन से इन्फ्लुएंसेस हम प्लेज में देखते हैं, लेकिन किस तरीके से ग्रीक ट्रेजेडी से एलिजाबेथन ट्रेजेडी अलग है, राइट, इन इट्स परस्यूट फॉर ह्यूमन ग्लोरी, राइट. So this and the modernity of the Elizabethan tragedy, these are the concerns, these are the elements that are important for us to lay a ground as we go on to read Dr. Faustus by Christopher Marlowe. Right. So we'll see you in the next lecture and we'll read Dr. Faustus in that. Thank you.